All right, we're going to pick up, well, not exactly where we left off. I'm going to review something real quick. So we got through chapter 4, verse 20 last time, right? I want to kind of remind you this whole little bit here from 10 on. He had just told the parable of the seeds being sown, right? And after he finished it, well, he ended it with, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. That's in chapter Mark 4, verse 9, which I may as well say now, I'm kind of starting to think that's a sign. When we see that, it's a sign that we're talking about those who are with him and those who are not. And only the ones who are with him could hear it. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Everyone has ears to hear, so it doesn't mean simply that. All right. And then they ask him when he was alone, verse 10, this is, those around him with the 12 asked him about the parables. So it's not just the 12, it's the those who are still following him and moving along with him, right? And he said to them, to you's been given the secret of the kingdom of heaven, of God, sorry. But for those outside, everything is in parables, so that, and then we have this quote from Isaiah. And I talked a bit about this because I had noticed that this be forgiven is the correct translation of the Greek behind this, but I went and looked at the Old Testament portion from which this is taken, which is Isaiah 6, and in the Hebrew, it's active. And I think that may actually be part of the key to understanding this whole section about insiders, outsiders, who can hear, who can't hear. You both have ears, but some hear, some don't. And that's kind of what this bit is saying too, right? That you, and this part, like, lest they should turn and be forgiven, by in the first place, no English, I think I said this too, sorry, no English translation that I found, I haven't checked everyone, but I did check quite a few, and they're all passive in their translation of this verse in Hebrew, from the Hebrew in the Old Testament. And it is then in the New Testament Greek, it's passive. Along the way, the Old Testament version that was written in Greek has a middle voice, which is not quite passive. It's the difference between Mama, I broke the window, and somebody else broke the window, and the window was broken, which is the passive, or what I more often would hear, trying to be honest, is the window broke. That's middle voice. It's sort of not sure who's doing the doing. Okay, I'm backing up to this part because he said the reason he speaks in parables, he tells them, is that they might not, those who are outside, right? To you's been given the secret of the kingdom of God, which is, we haven't really talked much about this concept, but for our purposes now, just consider it everything that is where, when I talked about like the spiritual battles that Jesus had with the demons, for example, as opposed to healing their bodies, which is more of a, I mean, it's a battle, but it's on their person, which won't last, right? We're not going to take these bodies with us. So the kingdom is the investment in the king, the future, the true reign of God, which is in this kind of strange place right now. But anyway, outside, however, they'll hear what we're saying, they'll see what I'm doing, but they won't understand because, and this is my rereading of this part, lest if they do hear, they could turn and forgive themselves. Or it's actually heal. There's a sense of forgiveness. It's like fixing things, But anyway, that's what we're looking at in in this uh, in this section that leads into it. Then he goes ahead and explains the parable, even saying, "Do you not understand this parable? How then will you understand all the parables?" They're clearly in the inside. They're the ones who um, are able to know the secrets of the kingdom of God. So, all right, then we move up to the parts we didn't go over last week. So starting in 21, right, is a lamp brought in to be put under a basket or under a bed and not on a stand? For nothing is hidden except to be made manifest, nor is anything secret except to come to light. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. There we go again, right? So this is an interesting thing. In the Greek, it's actually the lamp, which I don't know. Again, what happens in translations is whoever's doing the translating wants to make it smooth for English readers, and it doesn't really make sense to call, if you're using like an analogy like this or a metaphor, to refer to it as the lamp, right? It's supposed to be like any lamp. If a lamp is brought in, you don't, it is a lamp brought in to be put under a basket? Of course not. And we're supposed to know that. So why do I bring up the direct object? I'm sorry, the definite article in front of it, the, not a, because it's there in the Greek, and maybe that's some hint that he's the light, which we know from other places he refers to himself as. Yeah. But anyway, the point is, what's the purpose of light is to enlighten, right? For others to see by it. And he ends with this, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Also, nothing's hidden except to be made manifest. So what? We have this secret, parables, right? But everything's going to become known. And then so you have lots of hearing. At first, actually, I thought maybe I'll just highlight all the hears. Like, let's see if it works if I just double click. Here we go. Here, here, here. Yep, up there, here, 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 here. So we have a lot of hearing happening here. But what I mostly wanted you, I do think there's something to this idea that there's hearing and there's hearing, right? But eventually it will come out. This sort of scares me a little bit. If anyone, no, sorry, nothing's hidden except to be made manifest, nor is anything secret. There are a lot of things that I just as soon nobody know, right? But I think in this case, well, I think that's true, that, it's foolish to think that we can get away with things. But I think in this context, he's talking about the how the kingdom of God will be revealed, even how he's revealing himself, how he's coming into the world and bit by bit showing who he is. And if you recall, I said starting in chapter 8, we're on a march to, we're in 4, sorry, I lied. I'm doing this after we did, I think we're through chapter 10 or 11 by now in the Bible study. But in this point, and starting chapter 8, it's all toward Jerusalem. And he's told them several times what's going to happen, right? Anyway, then it's another strange thing. And he said to them, pay attention to what you hear. This is chapter 4, verse 24 now. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you, and still more will be added to you. For to the one who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. So once again, it starts by the hearing. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. And pay attention to what you hear. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you, and still more will be added to you. So this is, you're to do something, right? You're to use this and pay attention, and it should affect you. And insofar as you do this in proper measure, it will be given back to you, and even more. And then this verse 25, to the one who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. I don't know. Actually, I'm going to pause this and pull up the story. Hold on. All right, this is in Matthew 25. It's fairly long, but I'll read it in case you can't see this, or you're just listening to this as opposed to watching it on video. Chapter 25, verse 14. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants. Wait, I should back up and do. This is similar to what we just read in Mark, where the warning, right? Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. And this is all about the kingdom of heaven, just as it is in our Mark context, right? All right. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had 5 talents went at once and traded them, and he made 5 talents more. So also who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. I don't know why that's... I'm not sure why this is all lit up here down. Anyway, here I have made 5 talents more. Sorry. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. You should catch like, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into my kingdom's rest, you know. And he also who had 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I've made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, you wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest, at least. You can kind of hear him saying. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. And here's where we have kind of a very similar to our Mark passage. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he who has and he will have an abundance, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And then that poor guy gets whooped on. So I think you see the connection, that it is a sense of using what's been given you. And the fact that they can hear the secrets they need to represent. You know, what they know, they need to do something with. Okay? And then we have another seed scattering parable, but it's a little different. He's saying, kingdom of God is as if a man should scatter seed on the ground. He sleeps and rises night and day. Happens again and again and again. And you can kind of read, when you have something that's happening night and day, we're talking about over time, right? And the seed sprouts and grows, he knows not how. The earth produces by itself. First the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. And when the grain is ripe, at once he puts in his sickle, because the harvest has come. So this is, again, this slow emergence, or a timed or deliberate emergence, or uh, revelation of God's kingdom is on purpose. And even it takes day and night, right? He sleeps and rises night and day, which is actually the cycle is the day begins in the evening. Anyway, um, and even as it's sprouting, even when something's happening, what do you see first? A blade, like the little stem that pops up, which all seedlings kind of come out about the same at this point. And then it produces up to having an ear, a flower, then the full grain, the fruit in the ear. And when it's ripe, you can see it, you can use it, right? So these are things you can't quite recognize right away. And that's okay, but you're paying attention, right? And then the last one we're going to cover today is parable of the mustard seed. And he said, with what can we compare the kingdom of God? Or what parable shall we use for it? It's like a grain of mustard seed, which when sown on the ground is the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet when it's sown, it grows up and becomes larger than all the garden plants and puts out large branches so that the birds of the air can make nests in its shade. So I'm not sure if it's the smallest, but it's certainly really tiny. And it makes the point anyway. He's not going for botanical precision, but for something that's well known to them. They know how to plant mustard and what it's like when it grows. And by the way, they often grow up to be like trees, really tall. And so from a tiny seed, you end up with a tree that's taller than, it could be 7 feet, 8 feet. And one doesn't look like the other. The beginning doesn't look like the end. And even by the end, in this case, birds make nests in the shade. It's that substantial, that strong. And then we kind of bring it around again to where, when I had gone back up here to review what we went over in the first Mark 4 video about the role of parables, right? Allowing those who can see to see, can hear to hear. Here it says, with many such parables, he spoke the word to them as they were able to hear it. He did not speak to them without a parable, but privately. To his own disciples, he explained everything. Eventually, the hope is, of course, they would get it, but there's an awful lot to catch up on, I guess. And this seemed, he didn't want them to not know. So there is something about, just consider that as he wants to present himself in his time, in his way. And it won't look right at first. You won't be able to tell what will come of it when it's in the seed form, or when just a little, what do you call it, blade comes up, right? Right? No, yeah, first the blade. And then it continues, right? So we don't, it's okay that we don't know the answers, but we know that the kingdom of God, which is the thing that's like one scattering seed, will come, will grow to be magnificent. And I think this is especially interesting when we already know the end of the story about what's going to happen, that he's going to suffer and die. And he's getting them ready. He's getting his apostles ready for, don't worry if it doesn't quite look the way it should. Now, when I was doing this Bible study live, and this is just kind of your 20-minute catch up on it. This I linked in with what follows because I saw a similarity in them. So you can, if you care about what we said, it won't be as focused because it's us chatting and there's some, quiet time in it, dead time. But feel free to check out this video, which is on the Mark, I think it's Mark Study 2026, and I actually went and renamed them, so it's the names of the videos are the passages that are covered. So, all right, thanks for tuning in.